Mercedes' desperation for a replacement driver for Lewis Hamilton has been obvious for weeks now. Toto Wolff has always enjoyed having top F1 drivers on his team, whether it was Michael Schumacher or Lewis Hamilton. But once his second seven-time world champion leaves at the end of the year, he'll be left with George Russell and whoever he can find in the drivers' market. Not exactly the most exciting proposition. However, Toto Wolff isn't the kind of guy to settle for second best, and he's determined to get the best driver for next season, no matter what the cost. Today, I'm going to check out the ludicrous offer that Mercedes are going to make to Max Verstappen, so don't go anywhere. The drivers' market is all over the place at the moment, and despite Fernando Alonso and Nico Hülkenberg signing contracts, the grid for 2025 is no clearer now than it was at the end of last season. The big problem is the mess that is Red Bull. No one knows for sure what's going on inside the team's Milton Keynes headquarters, but things certainly seem messy. Reports of Adrian Newey being unhappy, power struggles between various people, and Christian Horner's ongoing issues after sending inappropriate messages to a female employee. That's just the start of it. Red Bull are in a luxurious position of having the best driver currently on the grid in one of their cars, but Formula One is like a rat nest. If there's a weakness in your team, the others will come and eat it alive. It happened to Mercedes after the cost cap came in and their best staff were ripped away from them. And now it seems like it's happening to Red Bull. Verstappen might have a contract until the end of 2028, but that isn't stopping Toto Wolff from trying his luck, and after Jos Verstappen's recent comments, he'll only be encouraged. Addressing his son's F1 future, Jos said, "I think everyone wants him, only I think Max is right for the moment. He has a fast car, but we also have to look further to 2026, so we're letting everything come to us at the moment. We stay very calm and see what will happen." That is an obvious invitation to the rest of the grid to make an offer. The Verstappen camp seemed to be holding a closed auction, forcing offers for his services higher than ever before seen in Formula One. Under a normal F1 contract, a driver wouldn't be allowed to leave until his contract expires, unless another team buys out the rest of their contract through negotiations with their current employer, or their current employer lets them go. Red Bull are not going to let Verstappen just up and leave, and there probably isn't a sensible number that they would be willing to sell him for. What is included in most F1 contracts, though, is clauses that allow them to be broken. Often they're performance-based. For example, if Red Bull didn't provide Max with a podium contender car, he could leave. Or if Red Bull did give him an excellent car and he just didn't perform well, then Red Bull could void the contract. There can be some stranger clauses as well, though, and Verstappen's is thought to contain one which states that the Dutchman is free to leave if Helmut Marko does. That's very important considering the recent power struggle between Horner and Marko. Since the Red Bull brand moved into the control of its board of directors, Helmut has been unhappy with how his work has changed. He now operates under a much tighter rein than previously and has to report to a variety of people instead of Red Bull's founder and his close friend, the late Dietrich Mateschitz. The idea of Marko leaving Red Bull had seemed impossible until very recently, but as a close family friend of the Verstappens, he could be a key bargaining chip for Toto Wolff. Mercedes will reportedly offer Max a staggering contract worth the equivalent of $161 million per season in a bombshell bid to poach the Red Bull star from 2025. It is more than double Verstappen's current salary at Red Bull, believed to be around $55 million. Mercedes' Lewis Hamilton currently earns an estimated $45 million per season, but that is set to dramatically rise when he moves to Ferrari in 2025. His pay is reportedly set to be as high as $87 million per season at Ferrari, though investment into Hamilton's Mission 44 organization and other bonuses could take the total value of the deal far higher. That offer would make Max by far the best paid driver in F1 history, but with the new budget caps in the sport, teams can afford to expend more of their money on drivers whose salaries are exempt from the cap. Part of the offer being made to Verstappen will include Helmut Marko moving to Mercedes. Verstappen said earlier this season that his own future at Red Bull depended on Marko remaining with the team, telling Sky F1, "For me, Helmut is a very key factor in that, and he has to stay for me, for sure." The two parties are having talks in Miami, and if Mercedes can get Max away from Red Bull, it would be one of the biggest coups in F1 history. Drivers have moved away from race-winning cars in the past. Fernando Alonso made a career of making bad team moves. But to go from the team that made the most dominant car in the sport's history last season to the fifth fastest team on the grid would make even the Spaniard think twice. Toto Wolff has repeated recently that there is more to a driver's decision on what team to drive for than just the competitiveness of the car. And if things really are that bad at Red Bull, and Mercedes really are going to offer Max that much money, then a move could really happen. For many F1 fans, seeing Verstappen out of a Red Bull, and literally anywhere else, would probably be a relief. He's won 38 of the 49 Grand Prix since the new technical regulations began in 2022. However, once his dominance does end via a move to Mercedes or the natural ebb and flow of the sport, what he has achieved will be celebrated. It might take a few years, but it will. Verstappen is on course to take his fourth World Championship in as many seasons, after winning 4 of the opening 5 rounds so far. But speaking ahead of this weekend's Miami Grand Prix, Otmar Szafnauer, who served as team principal at Aston Martin and Alpine, said, "You can't get rid of Max. The sport has gone through this before. Max will not be champion forever, and it will change. We've had Michael and Lewis dominating in the past, and we have to celebrate Max for his brilliance and not chastise him for winning all the time." Admittedly, Schumacher and Hamilton never quite had the stranglehold on the sport that Verstappen does at the moment, and Schumacher's hot-headedness added an extra edge to racing even when he was winning. But no fan looks back at Schumacher's time at Ferrari and says how boring it was or how fed up they got of seeing him win. The memories of watching Lewis's silver Mercedes dominate by 30 seconds most races are already passing. The same will happen with Verstappen, and his achievements will be celebrated. Szafnauer also urged Red Bull team principal Christian Horner to retain the services of Sergio Perez, who is out of contract at the end of the season. Szafnauer, who worked with Perez at Force India and then Racing Point before the Mexican joined Red Bull in 2021, said, "I was asked on stage recently, if you're Christian Horner, who would you replace Checo with? And I replied saying, knowing Checo as well as I do, I would replace Checo with Checo. I would keep him." Let's not forget, Max won his first championship partly because of the circumstances, but partly because of Checo too, when he held off Hamilton in Abu Dhabi. That is when he earned the nickname in Mexico as the Minister of Defense. He's had some lows, but from what I can see this year, apart from a couple of races where I think he should have finished a bit higher, I think he's doing it. Red Bull and Christian Horner have to fend off Max's suitors. If he goes, there is not one driver they can replace him with. They would still have the fastest car on the grid, but without the most informed driver, winning every race would be far more difficult. If Max were to go, then the questions over Christian's suitability to continue as team principal would begin. He created the circumstances as they are now. He was the piece that destabilized what was an almost perfect machine. Adrian Newey and Max Verstappen would not be looking for a way out of Red Bull if it weren't for Horner. If both leave, what does that mean for him? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. And do you think Max would actually make a move to Mercedes? Until next time, drive safe and bye for now.